Hello. You are planning your homestead wrong. I'm going to give you steps on how to actually plan it so then you can do your goal. First off, you're going to define your vision. You're going to set up what the big picture is. What do you want your homestead to look like? Are you wanting to focus on crops? Are you wanting to focus on livestock? Do you want to be self-sufficient on like energy and water? Figure out what your goals are going forward in planning out your homestead. Next is lifestyle. Going into homesteading is a very big change in your lifestyle. Not having to go to the grocery store very often, having to do work on your land and working with animals and energy and stuff like that if you wanted. Homesteading is a simpler life, living off the land, or just focusing on not having to be, or focusing on being self-sufficient so you don't have to go to the grocery store and work with competitive pricing and all that. Identify core areas of focus. Make sure that if you're wanting to do animals, figure out which animals you're wanting to do. And homesteading covers a wide range of focuses and activities. It's helpful to break down your goals on like short-term, long-term, mid-term. Figure out what you're wanting to do with your home. You can break it down into categories like food, what kind of foods you eat and how often you eat them, so you can get plants and animals that would help with that. Make sure you're growing like vegetables, fruits, herbs, livestock, all the stuff that you would possibly need. Next is water. You want to make sure that you are able to get water either through rain collection, irrigation, wells, any of that kind of stuff. Definitely think about setting all that up before you get too far into it and you have things in place where it makes it hard for you to do it. All right, next is energy. You're going to want to make sure that if you want to be self-sufficient with your energy, you look into like solar panels, wind panels, water power, or other renewable energy sources like rechargeable batteries. Definitely that kind of stuff you want to think about. You want to make sure that you have really good shelters and buildings for all of your livestock and or gardens. If you're in an area that doesn't get a lot of sun and is very dry, definitely think about getting a greenhouse so then you can keep the humidity in the area and keep it warm. Definitely think about renovating your house if you need more space and have space that you're not using right, and to make it more energy efficient. Barns, chicken coops, all that kind of stuff. You want to make sure that you have those before you start setting up with chickens and stuff like that. I am currently in our chicken run. I'm setting up the chicken coop, but the run itself is enough space for my chickens. I'm just being a little bit extra and making sure I have a lot of space for future chickens as well. Make sure that you are setting up SMART goals. Break your homestead goals down into SMART objectives. S in SMART is for, we're going to start with S, which is specific. Clearly define what you want to achieve. Like, for example, you want to start a garden that's about a 10 by 10 for your vegetables. That's a good, clear, specific goal that you want to set up. Make sure it's measurable. M is for measurable. You want to make sure that you can measure how long or how big you want your goals to be. And make sure you can track the progress as well. Because if you can't track it, then it's not really measurable. For example, maybe you want to gather 100 pounds of tomatoes by summer. Or you want to have a certain amount of eggs by the end of the year or something like that. Make sure your goals are achievable. Make sure your goals are realistic and you're able to get them with the amount of skills, time, and resources that you have. Do not set yourself up for frustration. It's just going to make it harder and make you not want to do it anymore. Relevant. You should make sure that your goals align with how you're wanting your lifestyle to be and making sure it fits with your homestead vision. Because if it doesn't, then why are you doing it? And last is time. You want to make sure that you are able to get it done in the amount of time that you have allowed. Give yourself a time period or timeline of how you want things to go. By the end of the summer, I want to have a chicken coop and 6 chickens, something like that. Create a timeline and milestones that you are able to reach. Divide your goals into manageable little sections. Make sure you break them down into a monthly thing so then it's easier for you to keep track of what you're going to do for those set months. If your goal is to set up a garden, make sure each month you have it set up. For month 1, you're making sure that you have your areas prepared and that you've got the seeds that you're wanting. For month 2, prepare the soil and plant the crops. for months like 3 or 4. Make sure that you're keeping up with the maintenance, watering, using fertilizer if you're using that. Pretty much any regular care like maintenance, weeding, watering, that kind of stuff. If you do that, then you'll feel less overwhelmed by the big project that you've set yourself up for. Prioritize your goals. Make sure that your goals line up with how you're wanting to go and that you get them in the right order. Because if you get 20 chickens and they're like full grown chickens and you don't have a coop yet, that's going to cause a lot of issues and a lot of frustration for you. Some goals are more urgent and critical than other goals, so make sure that you get them in the correct order. For instance, setting up like a water system will be more important than setting up a greenhouse, because you need that water system set up before you even start trying to build a greenhouse, because you're going to need that water system in the ground before you put the greenhouse on top. So then you have it all. I would recommend putting all your priority stuff in different ranks. So you have like high priority, mid priority, low priority. A couple things that I could think of that are a high priority are water supply is very important, making sure that you have good shelter, and a food supply. Making sure that you have those 3 things, I would definitely say are high priority compared to a couple of other things. Medium priority, I would say, is like garden techniques and energy sourcing. Making sure that you have those set up after you have things like your shelter and water system set up makes it a lot easier for you. Some low priority things I would say are like any of your luxury projects or any additional amenities that you would want in the future but don't really need. Like, I have this here which fits my 10 chickens just fine, but since I have the chickens and the feed and everything that I would need, I wanted to have more of an inside space for them, so I got a big coop. Budget and resource management is another really important thing that you make sure that you have, because yeah, you might want like 10, 20 chickens, but if you don't have the space for them or the budget for the food, the shelter, the chickens themselves, then you want to make sure that you have the budget and the resources to do that before you end up getting those chickens. And this has to do with garden and everything. I'm just mainly focusing on chickens because that's what I have. Consider a budget for every single one of your homesteading projects. It'll make it so much easier for you if you're like, I'm only allowed to spend this much on this project. You can add more to it once you reach that budget goal and you're wanting to expand. Like, I have a little garden, but if I wanted to expand on it, then the budget for it would get bigger as well. Some projects will need an upfront cost on things like if you wanted a greenhouse, if you wanted garden beds, that kind of stuff. Though there are some things that aren't quite others like composting have a lot lower of a cost. Just make sure that the estimating cost fits into, like, your estimating cost and your budget are close to the same. So if you're estimating something's going to be like $30, like a compost bin, then you have the budget for that as well. You want to make sure that they equal up. But if your budget's higher than what you're expecting to spend, then you can use that extra towards a different project. For resource management, you want to make sure, do I have any reusable materials I can use? What skills do I need to do it? Because if you have the skills to make something yourself, you might as well make it yourself. Okay, and here comes the trick that no one wants to hear, but we all need to hear it. Start small and build up. I started with 10 chickens because that's all that my hatchery was able to give me. That's the smallest amount that they would let me order. It was an order of 10 or more chickens. And I'm like, I don't need more than 10 chickens. I barely need 10 chickens. Don't try to do everything at once. Don't start like a giant garden area for chickens, goats, sheep, cows. Don't start out trying to get everything all at once, because then that's going to overwhelm you. You're going to feel overworked. And it's just going to make you not want to do it anymore. You will gain experience as you go. So when you gain experience, it'll make it a lot easier for you. And then as you gain experience, you can scale up as you go. Just don't overwhelm yourself all at once. This one isn't really a needed step, though I would highly recommend it if you're starting out, you don't know what you're doing. Definitely document your progress. It'll make it so much more rewarding in the end, because my chickens aren't even outside yet, and I'm already looking back at videos of when they were little and being like, oh, they're so big now, and it's very heartwarming to see them grow up. It's also a great way to keep track of your goals. Then you can visually see how your goals have changed. It will also help you stay motivated and see your progression as you go. You can also make adjustments if needed. Like if your first year your chickens kept getting sick, then you can look back and be like, okay, this was probably causing it, and it'll help you grow if you can look back and see what you did to make changes. You can either start a journal, like I know a lot of people do. They keep journals of what they were doing, what was working, what was not. Or you could do videos like this. Either journals or like recordings can make it so much easier for you in the future. Especially if, like, you don't even have to post. You don't even have to post them if you're filming them and wanting to keep record. It's just nice for you to be able to look back and see how you've grown. Learn to adapt. Homesteading can be full of trial and error, so don't be afraid to learn as you go. There's no right or wrong answer to pretty much anything. It's all depending on where you are, how much space you have, what the area around you is like. It's all dependent on where you are and how you want to raise your animals or crops or anything like that, because all that can change. You will encounter challenges as you go along because there are just things that pop up and you have to deal with in the moment. Or further down the line, you might discover, hey, I don't really like cow's milk and I really like goat's milk or even sheep milk, because that's an option. You might learn something new and that'll help you grow as you go. Grow as you go. Make sure that you celebrate your milestones. It might not feel like such a big thing if you've got like a chicken coop and everything, but once you build that chicken coop, make sure that you celebrate that. Or if you got your first vegetable from your vegetable garden, make sure you celebrate the little things, because those little things will build up, and if you don't notice them in the moment, you might feel discouraged going forward. Like, well, last year I did better at this, or I didn't get much of this. It's a growing thing. You have to learn as you go. It's a thing that we're not taught really much anymore unless you grew up in it, and even then you're learning new things as you go. Make sure you take pride in your progress, because you're doing it on your own. You're figuring out how to do it on your own, and every little step is a very important step for you being able to live life as you want. And just to end it off, I'm going to give you some examples of some long, short, and midterm goals that you might be able to take yourself or learn from. Figure out what kind of goals you have and where they fit on the whole thing. Some short-term goals should fit into the about like 1 to 6 month kind of range. Some examples could be like planting a garden, like a vegetable garden with like 5 to 7 different crops. Make sure that you're getting enough vegetables in that you're wanting. Another one, which is one that I'm doing, is building a chicken coop for as much chickens as you're needing or wanting. Usually I would say you want to start with like 3 to 5 hens, but nowhere near my area is selling them individually. It's only in bulk packs. The smallest amount that I could get was 10, so that's what I have. And I did not want to wait so super long until they were old enough. My chicks right now are 4 weeks, and if I got them at like Tractor Supply where you can get them individually, they would have been much younger. My chickens are already almost old enough to go out into their coop, and they're not even selling chicks at Tractor Supply or any like local supply farm stores. Another short-term goal is figuring out how to preserve your own food. Figure out how to do canning, figure out how to dry food. That kind of stuff is also really important to learn, and that's a good short-term goal. Medium-term goals should take about a year for you to complete, like setting up a rainwater system, expanding your garden to grow more like herbs, fruits, vegetables, all that kind of stuff. Maybe even installing solar panels so then you have electricity. The one that I'm gonna have as my term goal is to work on a garden. I have a little one right now, and I'm gonna see if by the end of the year they're starting to grow, and if they are, then I'm going to expand on that garden. Long-term goals are goals that take like 3 to 5 years to complete. Like in 3 to 5 years, I want to be able to have more space, be able to use my space more efficiently. Like I have a chicken coop, but eventually one of my goals is to build a barn and have some either goats or sheep, most likely goats, in my area. You could also make one of your goals to be more self-sufficient. One of your goals could also be to be more self-sufficient with food for a whole, to be able to grow the majority of your food for a whole year. Another one is to set up a greenhouse for all around here growing, to make sure that you have fresh vegetables and fruit all year round. Another one that I can think of is developing a compost area to make sure that all of your table scraps and so then you can compost a lot of your household waste. I have a little one set up, but it's not nearly big enough for all of the compost that I would be developing. And that's another goal, is to be able to grow my own compost so then I can put it on my garden and use up the stuff that I'm already just throwing away. If you guys have any questions about like what kind of goals you need to set, if they would be long, short, medium, definitely hit me up in the comment section. I will answer as best as I can. And if there's a lot of questions, I will probably make a whole video about it, trying to answer your questions as much as I can. And if you liked the video today, please make sure that you go and subscribe. It helps more than you would know. I hope today's video was helpful and able to help you out with how to plan out your homestead, or just if you're wanting to start a little garden. I hope it helps you out, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye bye.